research indicated that it was nearly unimaginable for it to exist. We had looked at the approximate location through satellite images and saw nothing unusual. I knew that it was probably a hoax. I was certain that it would be, because the precise conditions for a temperate microclimate in the Arctic were unheard of and theoretically impossible. Yet Reginald Iris had insisted that he had obtained the specimen from the end of his explorations. He had never lied to me, and only on his deathbed did he reveal his secret. He had named it the Valley of the Direwolf, because there was fauna there that was left over from the last ice age, which was also theoretically impossible. I didn't want to believe it, but I did. That is why I privately funded my own expedition. I looked on maps and pictures from satellites and saw nothing to prove it existed, or that it even could exist. Yet in the vast, unexplored wilderness of polar deserts, there were places even on the coast that nobody had ever set foot upon. Except Reginald. He had visited. He had warned me. It isn't a place where people belong. It belongs to them. It is their world, not ours. A world hidden from our own. Only death. I put a lot of faith into scientific discovery and absolute devotion to what is known to science. The images should show something. Yet the closest look I had showed only rocky and frozen tundra, and clouds of white mist obscuring most of the valley. It was the temperature readings that intrigued me. Those indicated that it remained somewhere in the upper 40s and lower 50s all year round. I consulted some colleagues who could share their expertise, and each of them stated independently that it was possible that the valley had maintained that temperature for any amount of time, even tens of thousands of years. While it seemed nearly impossible for Reginald's story to be true, there was a possibility within the nearly impossible. And that is how I ended up on my own exploratory expedition, kept private and personally funded. I cannot tell where we went or offer any evidence, because what we found was not meant for human trespassers. We found out while we were there that it was a sacred place, and to violate its sanctity is to be cursed. Reginald was right. Only death. On our first day we entered the valley and found it was a sustained biome that had living creatures. It was truly a miracle to find plants and animals. Resilient ferns, elderly pines, and archaic junipers, raspberries, and pines dotted the landscape sparsely. We found hares and voles and a new species of furry armadillos. The fascinating discovery was to be documented and shared with the whole world. On the second day, we encountered two of the surviving megafauna, their populations sustained by the bounds of plants and animals. Such a balance had existed for a very long time, keeping those creatures as living artifacts for the depths of time, older than human history. Herds of Elathsmotherium and a smaller version of Megalith's arrow peacefully grazed, seemingly unaware of our intrusion into their corner of the world. These creatures have existed like this since the end of the last ice age, isolated and untouched. This valley has somehow remained like this, a perfect balance that has kept them this way all this time, one of my team members said. There was much discussion and wonder, and we took many pictures and samples of bones and fur and anything else we could find. It was meant to be the discovery of a lifetime. I wrote about the entire experience in a journal, and it was all I kept. I alone and my journal were all that remained in the end. We found numerous hot springs that were as ancient as the valley, and had billowed up heat and clouds obscuring the valley from the modern eyesight from orbit. We could see the heat, but none of the details. The details we discovered on foot were of a lost world. A world of wonders. Our wonder did not last. as we ventured too far into the valley. Terror and dread soon plagued us. I tried to lead my team to safety after our first encounter with the guardians of the secret valley. They were intelligent, and at first they only stalked us and surrounded us, howling in the night and preventing our escape. They had evolved over many thousands of years and learned to conserve and maintain, to cull and protect. My deepest fear of them grew from the realization that they recognized us and would not let us leave. They spoke to each other in complex barking words, and we heard them talking. The Direwolves have killed Kenneth, I realized when we could not find him. The creatures had tested us again and again, preventing us from backtracking out of the valley, toying with us, showing themselves and then hiding from us. They had learned all of our strengths and weaknesses, had picked out a member of our herd and taken him. With self-preservation and trepidation, we abandoned our search for Kenneth and tried to hike out. Before we could make our escape, they were there. A pack of 7, the descendants of a species as old as mankind, and just as clever. Intelligence had served them well. They were the shepherds and the masters of the valley. It was their ancestral home. Kept secret by nature, and kept sacred by them. The Direwolves knew we were vulnerable, and they attacked. I panicked and abandoned my team. My heart was beating and my blood raced as I scrambled up some rocks. Below me I heard the terrified and pained cries of my team, and the angry barking of the Direwolves. Soon the massacre was over, and when I looked, I saw neither man nor beast remained. All of our scientific equipment, supplies, and camping gear were all that was left of them. I trembled. The nightmare of my escape had just begun. There was blood amid the scattered belongings, but the Direwolves had taken the bodies somewhere else. They did not feed where the herds grazed. There were 7 wolves, and they had each carried away 1 team member. If they had counted us correctly, or if their pack membership were equal to the team roster, I would have died also. That is what I thought in horror of the Direwolves. Their dark, bristly fur, massive hunch, and oddly shaped wolf-like bodies haunt my nightmares. When I began to creep through the last part of the valley's entrance, back to the polar deserts beyond, I was alone. I was never more vulnerable. And although I believed they would attack me and finish us all off, killing me last, they never did. My journey through the valley alone was fraught with daylight nightmares. I jumped at every shadow, and felt like I could be pounced on from behind every bush. I heard their distant howls, and sometimes their howls were nearby. They were following me, waiting to take me last. My terror at knowing death at their vicious teeth could come at any moment, and the horror of knowing my team was already dead, was like a spinning madness, making me laugh strangely as I hiked. It was dark as I reached the base camp. Our tent stood as a reminder of all those I had left behind. The howls of the direwolves made me turn and peer back into the shaded valley, beneath the eternal white clouds of steam from the geysers and hot springs. I could see their eyes watching me go. It was then that I realized they had chosen to let me leave. They could have easily hunted me and killed me, and I wouldn't have stood a chance. For their own reasons, they had allowed me to escape. I do not know why, but the thought of their deliberations still terrifies me. Such creatures with a magnitude of intelligence that they might make a choice of who lives and dies, and that they exercise their power over life and death, and demonstrated it with my survival, is all the more dreadful. I do not pretend to know their thoughts, but I do recognize that they think and communicate among themselves. The direwolves have learned to keep a language, to keep a tradition, and to prove it, forcing me to witness them and to know them in their sentience. Mere animals would have finished the job, but not the direwolves. They have kept their ways sacred and storied for countless generations, taking only what they need to take, killing only what they need to kill. Letting me go was a choice they made, following the path of their minds as they watched their herds, cultivating them like cattle. When they had eliminated the intrusion, they sent me home as a messenger. Somehow they concluded I would keep the secret of their home's location and deliver only a warning. The Valley of the Direwolves belongs to them, and we are not meant to be there. There is no place for humans among the talking beasts, and it is a sin for us to seek them out. There is nothing there for us. It all belongs to them. The only thing for us in their home? Only death.